Hello, Uta Hagen here with cone flowers and some phlox. We had a big hard rain, so some of the flowers are kind of floppy and raggedy looking, so I don't have a spectacular bouquet to show you. But here you are at Trans Widow Uta Hagen YouTube channel. Trans widow being a woman who has divorced a suddenly demanding cross-dressing husband. And we all refuse to call our ex-husbands our ex-wives or any other kind of female nomenclature. This video is continuing my presentation of child development so as to give you a basis and foundation to discuss with friends and relatives how trans ideology, the belief that a child can know since birth that he or she is born, so-called, in the wrong body. And there are 4 stages of child development. Piaget said children construct their understandings of the world through their experiences and interactions. So very clearly, the world gives a lot of input to the child. Therefore, if a child is being groomed at the nursery school or at home, God forbid, or at primary school, then they're going to get these ideas and assimilate them. New ideas are acquired and understood through a process of assimilation. What is that? What does it do? What is my interaction with whatever is being observed in the world? Then there is accommodation as the understandings, the new understandings, are modified. And then there is a process that Piaget called equilibration. And that's the balance between the assimilation of new input and accommodation of how the input and the understandings of it can be modified as further observations are experienced. The first stage, 0 to 2 years old, is sensory-motor. Therefore, there is no such thing as a thought process that a birth to 2-year-old could go through thinking, oh, my body is wrong. This is completely, the wrong body narrative is completely counter to established phases of development, well accepted and tested over and again in the field of child development. Then comes the pre-operational stage. It's understanding a use of symbols, thinking intuitively, and a little bit of a struggle with logical reasoning. And the famous test that Piaget did, or one of the famous ones, was the tall container and the short, wide container with an experience the child has, an observation of pouring liquid from one container first into the tall container and then into the short container, and asking the child, is there more now, when the tall container has the fluid in it, which of course we know is the same fluid. So when a child starts to say, oh, wait a minute, the tall container is skinnier, so that's why it went taller. It's not more, it's the same. That is the challenge that occurs during the pre-operational phase. Then there's the concrete operational phase, and reasoning operations will be with concrete objects, just like I talked about the water. And the child will be able to draw the conclusion that even if a container is tall and thin, if you've proven that you poured the same amount of water into the tall one as into the squat short one, then the child says, oh, I see. It's the same amount of water. They're different shapes. The containers are different shapes. And there are things that you can do with this, which I did actually. Then dropping something heavy with some bulk into those containers, and the water level goes up, and talking about whether there's more water or less water. I actually did this with young kids, just to help them develop their logic. And then comes the formal operational stage, which is typically age 11 and up, when abstract thinking, hypotheses, and scientific reasoning develop. And so, therefore, if a child is just developing this goes into the teen years, the reasoning is not strong enough. Logical reasoning is not strong enough for a child to make a definitive decision about an identity that is different from what their body tells them. And these principles are found to be applicable across cultures. And all of the formal operational stage dovetails with the maturation of the nerve linings in the brain and the optic nerve, which start completing the process at about age 7. And that's one reason it's so important, if a child has what's called a lazy eye or amblyopia, to do the patching of the good eye so that the other eye can develop before the end of that maturational period that starts completing around age 7. So I was the guru of the patch in the classroom, and really helped a lot of kids to have both eyes functioning well, because I was willing to do that. I was able to convince the child that it's important, and there were several kids who avoided surgery because I was a teacher who cooperated with the eye doctors and helped with patching in school. Okay, there are other historical theories of child development from such historic figures like Freud, Erikson, B.F. Skinner with behaviorism, and there's Bowlby's attachment theories, and then there's Vygotsky, who coined the term the zone of proximal development, which means that a child is able to assimilate and accommodate information through experiences of the world within the zone that the child is able to comprehend. That's why we start learning any kind of movement or any kind of music with simplified kind of things, because you're not going to be able to play a concerto no matter how hard you practice if that's what you start with. It's not in the zone of proximal development. And various alternative ideas and indoctrination and cultic ideas about which sex you are actually not in a primary school child's zone of proximal development. All right, I think we got through it. Sensory-motor, pre-operational, concrete operational and formal operational. Those are Piaget's stages of development, which completely counterindicate any ideas that a child can, in quotes, know that they were, in quotes, born in the wrong body. Get out in nature and please use this information to challenge those practitioners who believe you can be born, so-called, in the wrong body. Like, subscribe, please comment. Perhaps you have information for us. Thanks.